practice, both on and off the cushion, we emphasize being present, experiencing this life right here, right now, which can evolve into the practice of being the presence. If we're really able to release thoughts and self-reference. In Zazen, we use skillful means to sustain our attention to right here and right now. We follow the breath, we might count the breath, listening to sounds, holding wide open awareness, holding awareness in the hara, deep in our core of our body, or other means of concentration, and then gently bringing ourselves back right here, right now, when we realize we've drifted, which is almost inevitable. Similarly, we practice skillful means to be mindful off the cushion. Practices like body awareness, engagement with nature, mindful eating, active listening, or gratitude practice, and there's many more. There's a sutra that records the teachings of Buddha 2,500 years ago when he was actively teaching, called the Satipatthana Sutta. And in it, he describes many skillful means of cultivating awareness in a teaching that's called the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. And those four are mindfulness of our body, mindfulness of our feelings, mindfulness of our mind, and mindfulness of objects of the mind objects. And the Buddha described many ways of being mindful, attentive, and aware for each of those four. This teaching is more commonly studied and practiced in the Theravada community, the Vipassana insight community of Buddhist practitioners. But it also can contribute to our own practice of being aware and very present in this moment. Thich Nhat Hanh writes that the four foundations of mindfulness are the foundations of our dwelling place. Without them, our house is abandoned. No one is sweeping or dusting or tidying up. Our body becomes unkempt. Our feelings are full of suffering. And our mind is a heap of afflictions. Sounds terrible, doesn't it? Might sound familiar. I've been there. He says, when we are truly home, our body, mind, and feelings will be a place of refuge for ourselves and others. So we'll talk about these four foundations of mindfulness. The Buddha describes mindfulness of the body as mindfulness of the body as body. As body. Mindfulness with the body having the physical experience of being a body, rather than thinking about it, rather than, narrating the experience. It's just being in the body, being the body, feeling the parts of the body and the sensations of the body. he teaches, and how does a nun remain focused on the body as body? Breathing in long, she knows I'm breathing in long. Or breathing out long, she knows I am breathing out long. Or breathing in short, she knows I'm breathing in short. Or breathing out short, she knows I'm breathing out short. And she trains herself. I will breathe in sensitive to the entire body, like sensing and feeling the whole body in the breath. Not just one little place, or not just thinking about breathing, but feeling it. She trains herself, I'll breathe out sensitive to the entire body. And further, when walking, the nun knows I am walking. When standing, she knows she's aware. She keeps contact with the body. When standing, she's aware, I'm standing. When sitting, she was aware, I'm sitting. When lying down, she knows I'm lying down. However her body is disposed, that's how she knows it. She keeps her awareness with her body. Not and what's going to happen that evening or what happened this morning. He goes on to include practicing full awareness of all activities of the body, not just the position, but the activities. Extending your arms and legs, grasping objects with your hands, eating and drinking, urinating and defecating, talking, keeping silent, falling asleep and waking up, and so on. All the activities of the body, be aware of that. Maintain practicing it. Practicing it as a path towards realization, as a path towards awakening, for clarifying, letting go of the clouds and the dust of the mind, the fog. And then a third mindfulness body practice, he teaches awareness of all the parts of the body, from the hair on the head, doing a body scan, being aware all the way down to the feet, from the skin to the tissues to the bones, knowing them with the body, feeling them, not just describing it, but feeling it, experience it directly with the body. And he also teaches practicing awareness of factors leading up to the arising of body sensations, the persistence of body sensations, and the fading away of body sensations. And this leads to a direct experience, a direct knowledge of his teaching on impermanence. Because this teaching on impermanence pertains to our body and our moment-to-moment experience. Sensations arise because of something. They persist for a while, and then they inevitably fade away. They're impermanent. And he says, thus the practitioner abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. And clinging, you may recall, is the root of suffering. So after mindfulness of the body as body, the Buddha teaches practicing mindfulness of feelings as feelings, which is the second foundation of mindfulness. Feelings as being mindfulness of feelings. And rather than this being long-held emotions, complex, with a history and family of origin stuff, this is more, this is about feelings in the moment, the sensations of the body resulting from the contact of the five senses with the world. Right? Hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching the world. We're in contact with the world all the time. And when we have contact, there's actually, the teaching is that when we have a sensation of the senses, when we have contact, there's an automatic feeling response that comes out of that sensation. And the teaching is that the feeling of the contact is either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So the teaching is to learn to be aware of the feeling that comes along with sense perception, with contact. Okay, and for example, the sensation of a warm spring sunshine on the skin is usually felt to be pleasant, while the sensation of stepping on a sharp thorn is usually thought to be unpleasant. And so on, with all things that happen to our body, all contact. He teaches that, the tendency is to want to hold on to pleasant feelings. Oh, I could be in the sunshine all day. Or want to push away or be rid of unpleasant feelings. But as he teaches with mindfulness of the body as body, he teaches to become aware of the conditions that cause the arising of feelings, be aware of their persistence, long or short, and be aware of them fading away. Because again, the feelings are impermanent. Everything is impermanent. Life is impermanent. And it's a great teaching of the Dharma. And the teaching is also not to cling to feelings or reject feelings, but just to face them with compassion. Accept them that they are part of us, but don't let them dominate us, not control us. The third foundation of mindfulness is mindfulness of mind as mind. This can be a little puzzling. This indicates being aware of our mind, our consciousness, and the more or less the feeling tone of awareness. So if you make the effort right now, like pause your thinking. Just be aware of what it feels, the sensation in your mind. Okay? Mushin has called that the feeling tone of the mind. It's not about the content. It's not about the thinking, the aspirations or anything else. It's not about what's being thought. That's all the fourth foundation. I'll get to that in a second. Okay. The Buddha teaches, how does a practitioner remain focused on the mind as mind without being drawn into the content of the mind, the thoughts, the planning, the memories? There's the case where a practitioner, when the mind has desire, just knows that the mind has desire. Any of you if you're not thinking, is there a desire? Is there something is there craving present? Or when the mind is without desire, then the mind is without desire. So maybe that's the way it is for most of you now. If you're not thinking, there's not desire perhaps. Likewise, he says that also for knowing that the mind has or doesn't have aversion or delusion, which are the other two of what he calls the three poisons. Desire, aversion, and delusion, also called greed, anger, and ignorance. This is one of the Dharma teachings. So, and he also says, okay, if the mind is constricted, okay, so if you're not thinking, you have a sense of what the feeling tone is of your being. Is it constricted? Is it distracted? Exalted? Concentrated? Liberated? Like you're not thinking there's this sense of great liberation? Or not liberated? Or so on. So this is a teaching to be aware of the general feeling tone of your being, of your mind, of your heart mind, of your awareness. Not before you even address all of the elaborate teachings of the fourth foundation, which is mind objects, and there's a lot there. The first step, body, feeling, and mind is mind. Okay? It's like the container for all of the mental and emotional experiences that come along that are considered to be mind objects or phenomena of mind, he calls them, because our thoughts and feelings are like phenomena that occur within our nervous system and our thinking. And it's also been called mindfulness of Dhamma, which is the older term for Dharma, the Pali term for Dharma. Dharma, which in this case refers to the teachings of the Buddha, the Dharma teachings of the Buddha. It's been called mindfulness of Dharma because the Buddha teaches us to see our mind objects in terms of his Dharma teachings. And I'll go through like 3 or 4 of them here as examples. And some of you may be familiar with these teachings, or some of them, and maybe you won't be. But he teaches, how does the practitioner abide contemplating mind objects as mind objects? Here a practitioner abides contemplating mind objects in terms of the 5 hindrances. And the 5 hindrances is a teaching of the Buddha that's about 5 emotional orientations that are hindrances to meditative concentration or to actually insight into the Dharma. And those are sensual desire, and so the practitioner contemplates a thought and he sees that it's sensual desire. And he becomes aware of some other mind experience, a thought or feeling body, a feeling mass, and he realizes there's ill will in me, or there's sloth and torpor within me, or at other times he may realize, oh, there's restlessness in me, or there's doubt in me. So those 5 hindrances are desire, ill will, sloth, restlessness, and doubt. So with the practitioner, practices becoming aware of those and how they emerge and how they persist and how they eventually pass away, then that can provide the practitioner with some choice. And again, a practitioner abides contemplating mind objects in terms of the 5 aggregates. This is another teaching of the Buddha. The 5 aggregates are aggregations of 5 varieties of repeated experiences that are inherent in having a body and a mind. Aggregations of these repeated experiences that together build up to form our sense of self. Okay, so his teaching is that the self is it's an illusion. It's a very sophisticated illusion. It's a very persistent illusion. but it's the result of continuous experiences of various kinds happening since birth or before birth that lead to a belief or a strong feeling of self. And those varieties of experiences are material form, feeling, perception, formations, that is like thought formations, and consciousness, a sense of me, self-consciousness. So those go from body sensations through feelings. Perceptions are like, oh, I'm feeling the fur of a cat. That's a perception, right? Formations build on perceptions. Perceptions like naming the experience. Formations like building a narrative around it. I love my kitty. I always want my kitty to be with me, you know. And consciousness is like, I'm alive. I have a kitty. The kitty's separate from me. You know, self-consciousness. So this is a teaching of the five aggregates, and he's saying mindfulness. Apply mindfulness to these experiences and gain some perspective upon them. Don't let them control you. And then he goes on to a third of his Dharma teaching, mindfulness of the Dharma. A practitioner abides contemplating mind objects in terms of the 7 enlightenment factors. And this is a teaching he made about 7 characteristics or conditions of the awakened mind, which are mindfulness, something called investigation of states. It's like curiosity, looking into. The third one being energy. The fourth one being rapture or bliss. Fifth one being tranquility. The sixth one being concentration, the ability to concentrate deeply. It's meditative concentration. Right? And the seventh one being equanimity. So he says, the practitioner abides contemplating the mind objects, what's going through your mind at any given time. And if you recognize, oh, I'm being mindful, and you can realize, oh, looking at that experience through the teaching of the 7 factors of enlightenment, you might catch yourself at another time saying, oh, I'm curious, I'm looking into my experience, my beliefs. Oh, this is another factor of enlightenment, and so forth. So this is another way, a third way of being aware, being mindful of what's going through your mind in terms of the Dharma teachings. And the last one I'll describe is that the practitioner abides contemplating mind objects in terms of the 4 truths, usually called the 4 noble truths. And these are 4 truths about suffering and the end of suffering, which are famous teachings of Buddha, right? And he says that practitioner understands that this is suffering. He teaches that life is frequently suffering. He teaches about the origin of suffering, and so if we have something that we're thinking about or emotionally experiencing, and we realize, oh, this is the origin of my suffering. I have a body, I need food, whatever. Then the practitioner also contemplates some mind object and realizes this contributes to the cessation of suffering. This might be like letting go of a craving or anger. And then lastly, he says the practitioner realizes this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. In other words, this is the Eightfold Path that he taught. 5 hindrances, the 5 aggregates, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the 4 truths are among the many teachings of the Buddha. He suggests viewing our internal screen of a narrative, storyline, and visual world in terms of his Dharma teachings. And if it's possible to just sort of push the pause button and go like, oh man, this is really, about ill will. This is like the hindrances. My life is like demonstrating the Dharma. And then it's possible to have a choice of, having that remain involuntary or unconscious, or choosing to, okay, there's times when, I might feel ill will. Maybe I feel ill will towards someone who's mistreated my children, okay? Or maybe I feel ill will about people that cut down a forest or something. Okay? Maybe there's some sense of justification or righteousness about that. I don't know. Or you can choose, feeling ill will towards the driver in front of me because they're not going fast enough. Well, that's our choice, right? So these teachings of the Buddha, hindrances, aggregates, factors of enlightenment, 4 truths, these are things that we have studied over the years at Sangha in Tuesday evening Dharma discussions, or in the Tao Ren group of senior students that meet several times a year. We haven't done that recently, and it might be good to review some of these foundational Dharma teachings, because they can be quite helpful in clarifying our experience from the wisdom and compassion of Buddha. Thich Nhat Hanh writes that sitting and watching our breath is a wonderful practice, but it's not enough. For transformation to take place, we have to practice mindfulness all day long, not just on our meditation cushion. And that we have to practice mindfulness all day long and not just on the meditation cushion. That doesn't mean that we have to embark on a lengthy and thorough program of studying and practicing all the mindfulness contemplations that the Buddha teaches. But that's something that Theravada Buddhists do. It's a very central part of their practice. Right? They might spend years practicing through these 4 foundations of mindfulness and all of these other teachings about Dharma that relate to them. It's been said that the Theravada practice is something like cultivating a garden, where you plant seeds and you tend the garden carefully, you do weeding, you water, and eventually you harvest the fruits of your labor. It's kind of like systematic in that way, right? But in Mahayana Buddhism, which is the tradition that we're in, Zen is part of the Mahayana tradition. And our approach isn't so systematic as that. Okay? However, Dogen does teach us that to study the Buddha way is to study the self. So that includes taking a look through this lens of Buddha's Dharma teachings, which are, it's wise, can be wise and very perspective on it. It's not like my thoughts and feelings are so unique that, and they're so important that I just don't want to stop thinking them and feeling them because, whatever. We can get some perspective on our experiences by trying to apply the lens of the Dharma teachings to us. And it's also, as I said, an opportunity then to have the choice of holding on or letting go. Letting go of our attachments, opinions, fixed views, preferences, likes and dislikes, desires, aspirations, goals, all of which have their place. Rather than the metaphor of cultivating a garden, for the Mahayana, it's more like the metaphor is like a pond, a nice little pond and a little idyllic, sunny place with grass and trees and sunlight. And the pond, here's the pond, but it's been stirred up. It's like somebody's been throwing a stick for the yellow lab and it's stirred up all the mud and everything, and then that disturbance stops, and the mud and sediment over time, it settles down, drops out, and then the water's clear. There's clarity. There's a chance to see clearly. And our way, our Zen way is it's less directed and willful, right? I mean the cultivating the garden way, the Theravadan approach, it's systematic, it's intentional, it's very stepwise, and it's a way to be awake, find awakening. Our way is not quite so willful and intentional as that. It's more about being present, letting go, letting things settle, open our awareness. One of the sources I was reading as I was preparing this said that it's been said that our practice of zazen and letting go and opening up and just being aware of what happens is comparable. She said it's like you're making a lap. Sitting in zazen, we're making a lap, and there's a cat in the house. Cat might come and sit in your lap. Cat might not. This is like insight. Okay, we settle, we open, we relax, and something may become clear to us that wasn't clear before. We may understand in a way that we didn't know. We may experience something different about life, our life, than we could when the waters are muddied. So it's useful to know about the Buddha's teachings on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. They can help us see that most or all of our experiences reflect Dharma teaching. They can help us become more aware of our body and mind experiences, both in zazen and in daily life off the cushion. And they can help us let go and settle down. And I'll conclude by saying that sesshins, which are multi-day meditation retreats that we do offer here, and they're offered elsewhere. We do offer them here. Sesshins sessions can be a particularly useful practice form in this regard because there's more dedicated time, hour after hour, for multiple days, with the support of silence, which is typically how we have a session. It's silent. We don't chatter, we don't make small talk. We sit with an intention of penetrating what's most important. It's our most important question for us, which we can only do ourselves. No teacher can tell you what's most important in your life. You're the only one who can realize that in your heart for yourself. Sesshin is a container, we call it, where you're supported in making that inquiry. And in Sesshin we can settle more deeply than in daily practice. And I encourage you all to put multiple Sesshin on your yearly practice calendar. And I hope to see you there. May your practice go well.
Please turn to page 5.